The UK and the radical left would love nothing more than to put free speech on a ventilator, while flipping the script and actually trying to say that it's President Donald Trump that's against free speech. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up if you tried. Yet, while they push their conspiracy theories and their propaganda continuously, they want RFK to step down for his conspiracy theories. And trust is at an all-time low. Trust is on a ventilator as well. And sometimes there are conspiracy theories, sometimes propagated by people on the right. And that's because the radical left has lied to us over and over again that sometimes anything they put out, you want to go wildly the other direction. But here on the Revealed Report, we want to come back to the center and we really want to reveal truth for what it is. We do not want to be radical conspiracy theories. Neither will we be suppressed and silenced because they want to call us conspiracy theorists. And so we want to talk about the lies of the left and we want to expose them for what they are and who they are. Welcome back to the Revealed Report. In a previous episode, we talked about how the UK is now sending out their police to try to silence people talking against the trans movement, or dare questioning whether or not the chemical drugs that are being pumped into these human bodies have negative long-term ramifications and even sometimes violent ramifications. Now, they can talk about Donald Trump, they can actually spill out real violence and real violent speech, but yet if you dare talk about the trans movement, you're deemed a hater that's enacting hate speech and you're enacting violent activity, and so their police has to come after you. And if you think it's only the UK, this is the heartbeat of the radical left in the United States of America as well. What's happening in the UK is a reminder that we must never allow the radical left to get back into power because they'll be coming back with vengeance and they'll be doing the same thing here right in the United States. But I thank God that there's congressional members like Jim Jordan who's willing with a spine to stand up against it. A political article states, and I quote, a House Judiciary Committee hearing Wednesday pumped fresh oxygen into the transatlantic argument over tech regulation, giving right-wing United Kingdom leader Nigel Farage a platform to attack his own country's laws. Online safety rules have created an awful authoritarian situation in the European Union and the UK, said Farage, leader of his country's Reform Party. Farage was invited by House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, Republican of Ohio, making an escalation in Jordan's war on Europe's tech regulations, part of a years-long effort to pressure Europe into loosening laws that have led to investigations and fines against American tech companies. In organizing the hearing, Jordan is attempting to put an international spin on the conservative argument against online speech restrictions in the U.S. You can tell this comes from a left-wing propaganda piece. I continue to quote, a complaint stemming from the arguments over COVID-19 and the January 6, 2021 insurrection, when numerous far-right figures were deplatformed for promoting potentially dangerous misinformation. In addition to attacking American tech companies, Europe is attacking free speech around the world, including here in America, Jordan said. He has an ally in Farage, a populist leader who has taken up the same cause against his own country's rules. God bless him. As the UK's Online Safety Act went into effect this summer, it became a point of international tension between tech companies and governments. At the same time, Europe's laws governing antitrust and online content have begun leading to large fines on American companies. That's why it's important here in America. Although the U.S. does not have direct influence on overseas laws, Farage's presence in Washington has stoked anxiety in both the UK and EU. Thank God for it. Lay down the hammer on them. And I continue to quote that a sympathetic White House might use American trade muscle to push back on foreign rules. Farage hinted briefly at this in his comments, warning that the UK's Online Safety Act would damage trade between our countries. After the hearing, Jordan told Politico he believes he has allies in Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in continuing to push back against the European laws. End quote. If you didn't hear my episode about why I support Trump's tariffs. You ought to go back and listen to that episode. And I will continue to say I absolutely support Trump's tariffs. And this would be a good time to lay down the hammer and force the UK to allow free speech and not come after American companies. You see, the fight's not over. When we got Donald Trump elected to be our president of the United States, and we had a red sweep over the House and over Congress. That was no time to sit back in silence and think the fight is over. As you can tell, this is bigger than just us at a local level. These European and UK government officials are trying to bring fines down on our American companies and corporations to try to suppress their speech. And by doing that, then it causes them to have to suppress the speech of Americans, that you can't question anything. You can't dare speak what you believe on the right because they're coming after you. Free speech in America is vital. It's important. And when we lose free speech, it's a death to a nation. I know that free speech doesn't mean you can say just wildly whatever you want, but we can speak our values and our principles. That in itself is not hate speech whatsoever. The radical left wants to use everything they can to silence us. And you find that you have this Congressman Steve Cohen, hate to even say his name, I don't even like to bring attention to him. He is now trying to flip the script and say free speech is under assault by Trump, not European allies. What traitors to our country. He's actually trying to flip the script and saying it's disingenuous to say that the UK is cracking down on free speech. We are being disingenuous. You know, that must be more Russian misinformation, I guess. And so Trump is actually the one that is cracking down on free speech. I mean, just think about this for a moment. Do they actually think the American people are that stupid that we're going to continue to buy into their lies? Why do you think you lost the election? Because the American people are tired of you lying to them. Democrat Party, if you ever think you're going to get back in office, quit thinking the American people are that stupid that you can lie to them all the time and they're not going to catch on. We're not that dumb. American people are brilliant people. And once we catch on to something, you think it's going to be easy to gain us back? And so we find that the radical left will join league with the UK to try to push their tyrannical objections to speech on the right. They'll use anything. They'll flip the script. They'll lie all day long. The only speech they really care about is speech that propagates their lies. And these people believe that we're ignorant enough to keep buying into it. The only thing they consistently do well is lie. These are the same people that lied continuously about COVID-19 and tried to suppress speech heavily during that time frame. You find that during the, and I want to talk about COVID-19. I want to talk about the big lie that sometimes is still not talked about. Let's pull off the mask. Let's talk about the lie and lead this all the way in to what's going on with RFK right now. With Pocahontas and crazy Bernie Sanders that looks like he should be feeding pigeons on a park bench somewhere, and what they're doing to RFK and trying to tell him he needs to step down for his conspiracy theories while they propagate one lie and one conspiracy after another. The only difference is their conspiracy theories become conspiracy fact because they want to put their boot down on the American people and they want us to be enslaved to them. They don't even believe half the things they're saying, but they push that propaganda because they think we're too dumb to figure it out. The last election should show you that we're not that dumb. Let's look back during the time of COVID. Let's go back to 2003. You see, in 2003, there was the first SARS outbreak. After SARS-CoV-1, researchers began investigating coronavirus vaccine platforms. This laid groundwork for the mRNA and adenovirus approaches. By the way, there were several of these vaccines created that were ineffective. But if you dare ask about the efficacy of the vaccine, you were deemed hateful, racist, bigoted, fascist, Nazi, conspiracy theorist, and on the story goes. We find that Moderna was founded in 2010. The company launched focusing on mRNA therapies, not initially on vaccines. 2013 to 2014, there was the U.S. government partnership. Watch this. The NIH and the NIAID began collaborations with Moderna on vaccine research, not specific to the COVID yet, but that was a part of it. And so what you see is these unelected federal bureaucrats are lockstep in this private-public partnership, which was what the Great Reset was all about. This private-public partnership with this big medical corporation, Moderna, and now they're doing research. Who do you think is going to get the money on this? Do you think it's just Moderna, or do you think some of that money funnels back in right into these unelected bureaucrats? And who's the head of all of this? We'll talk about that. In 2015, gain of function concerns. NIH paused gain of function research in 2014 through 2017. Funding was paused for certain risky viral research, but exemptions existed. Now, we can talk about whether gain of function research should happen or not. I have my certain opinion. I think it'd be good to bring to the table discussion. But watch what happens. In 2014, 2019, NIH through NIAID under Dr. Flip Flop Fauci funded EcoHealth, which subcontracted work in Wuhan. NIH has since admitted this included research on bat coronavirus, though it disputes that this was gain of function under their definition. Because remember, Dr. Flip Flop Fauci and them redefined what gain of function research it was. Because the radical left wants to redefine the definitions, the language all the time, so they can move and they can be just as fluid on truth as they are on gender, so that you're always on the end of propagating conspiracy theory and they can always justify everything that they're doing. The reason why they didn't want to say that it broke out in Wuhan is because Dr. Flip Flop Fauci and his regime had their hands in on it. They were practicing gain of function research, taking American tax dollars and shipping it over there so they can do it. And when it broke out, there was dirty American hands on it. So when Rand Paul was pressing him on it, he had to lie. He had to flip-flop back and forth and lie to the American people, thinking we're too dumb to figure it out. The same guy that looked like Darth Vader on CNN telling us maybe masks don't work. Yeah, may wear one mask. No, actually wear multiple masks. As a matter of fact, mask your kids and don't go to school. And everybody lock down the middle class businesses and lock up the churches. Keep the liquor stores open because we know Jim Beam is going to cure the virus and allow them to go everywhere else. But close down the middle class businesses, close down the churches, and pump a bunch of printed money right into big corporations, have BlackRock go out there and begin to push ESG scoring on them, then use the George Floyd death, which we'll talk about here in a bit, the George Floyd death in combination with that, so that all of a sudden they can begin to flow printed money into these big corporations and tell them, hey, now that we got you addicted to that heroin, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Now you're going to have to be woke. You're going to have to comply to our ESG scoring. How are you helping the environment? How are you hurting the environment? How are you helping social justice? How are you hurting social justice causes? And are you willing to comply with our government mandates? Now look, 2015, watch this. There was a drafted agreement. Documents show NIH and Moderna negotiating over shared rights for the mRNA coronavirus vaccine technology. 2015, they were working on a contract so they can get paid for these vaccines, but it didn't get signed. Now, let me ask you the question. When they came against Johnson and Johnson and said it's because of adverse reactions, which, by the way, I thought the COVID vaccine didn't have any adverse reactions. And I thought the flu just magically disappeared and the coronavirus was 100% effective for a virus that had a 0.02% death rate, even though they put their death ticker down at the bottom of CNN and PMSNBC and all of them on the left, ABC. And if they would do this for vehicle deaths, people would quit driving vehicles as well. And yet they propagated this lie, even though the people that usually die from it have more than 4 comorbidities or more. Yet they push this lie on the people continuously, trying to get you to buy into it, while behind the scenes, there was a contract going on between Moderna and unelected bureaucrats, later Pfizer, with Dr. Flip Flop Fauci at the top. I wonder where he gets all his money at. Do you think Johnson Johnson just had bad medicine, or do you think it was they weren't in on the Ponzi scheme? In December 12th, 2019, Reports surfaced of a material transfer agreement signed between NIH and Moderna to collaborate on coronavirus vaccines just before the pandemic was publicly declared. Critics argue the timing is suspicious, you think? Though NIH and Moderna say this was part of ongoing work after MERS SARS. Yeah, because we believe you. So check this out. In 2015, they have a contract on the table. They don't sign it. It breaks out in China in July. In the summer of July 2019, it breaks out in China. China suppresses it. There's a report in September. They begin to suppress that. But in mid-December, on December 12th, 2019, all of a sudden they signed the contract. And then all of a sudden, China is going to come out on December 31st of that same month and say, oh, wait, we might have the virus after all. We think it broke out. Hmm. Timing's pretty coincidental, isn't it? And then to top it off, there was Event 201 on October 18th, 2019. John Hopkins, the WEF, World Economic Forum, Bill Gates Foundation was there. The big Klaus Schwab and all them were there. For what purpose? Pandemic simulation exercise using a hypothetical coronavirus outbreak focused on global response coordination. Critics note its uncanny similarity to what unfolded weeks later, though organizers say it was a coincidence and it was purely theoretical. I mean, we had no clue. And what do you think they did? They crafted a plan for the 15 days to slow the spread. And it was the first time they outwitted Donald Trump, stuck him in a corner where it was a catch-22 situation for him. Really helped cause them the election, as well as the shenanigans. Oh, wait, we can't say that because we were suppressed. Their speech was suppressed because we couldn't question the 2020 election, even though Stacey Abrams is still questioning it. Hillary Clinton is still questioning the 2016 election. But we can't say that because we're Nazi fascist conspiracy theorists, bigots, and racists by saying that. Even though it was the first time they actually tricked Donald Trump and they put him in a corner into a catch-22 situation, gave him the blueprint, 15 days to slow the spread, and all of a sudden, while the economy was broken, then BlackRock being used by the Federal Reserve to take printed money and dump it into big corporations while shuttering the doors of middle-class businesses and shuttering the doors of churches, and now making them go woke overnight, and then using George Floyd's death as a piece of their propaganda, acting with their crocodile tears that they're mourning the death of George Floyd when all they're doing is using the loss of a human life to push their agenda because they have no soul. I pray they do, and I pray that we can somehow reach them, but it doesn't seem very promising. And so the 2020 pandemic declared and government actions took place. First U.S. case confirmed on January 21st, WHO declared a pandemic March 11th. The pandemic began to take place and the lockdowns were set into motion. Fauci lied back and forth. Flip-flop Fauci began to lie left and right, denying every bit of it. Why? Because his hands were dirty. It was a crime. It was a crime against humanity. It was a crime with the American leftist politicians and unelected bureaucrats. It was a crime with China upon the American people. They also disgracefully used the George Floyd case to push their propaganda. And that's controversial as well. Because you see, Keith Ellis of Minneapolis, he didn't want you to see the first tape of George Floyd saying, I can't breathe, while he was already in the police vehicle requesting to be put on the ground. He deemed it too shocking for the general public to see. Why do you think that is and was? It's because they were wanting to push a propaganda, because Marxists knew they can't get the bourgeoisie and the proletariats fighting one another. So what we'll do is we'll take America's past and we'll throw fuel on racial division, and we'll stoke the flames of that, and then we'll begin to push our narrative through that. That's how we'll uproot the system. And you find that the autopsy report of George Floyd was the fact that he was 3 times over the lethal limit of fentanyl. He also had methamphetamine in his system, and as well as having heart disease. The media framed the knee on the neck story. And as a matter of fact, that was a perfectly legitimate use of force according to their department. And it wasn't even always on the neck. It was also on the shoulder. They didn't tell you any of that. They just clipped out their little segments and pushed their propaganda. You find that for weeks, the public only saw the viral bystander video, not the full body cam sequence. In addition to this, there was an unfair trial. The trial took place in Minneapolis amid riots, protests, and political pressure. Jurors lived under the threat of more unrest if Chauvin was acquitted. Defense requested a venue change, but Judge Cahill denied it, but later admitted the environment was intense. Critics argue Chauvin's conviction occurred in a context where jurors may have felt coerced by circumstance. Defense experts testified Floyd likely died from a sudden cardiac event complicated by drugs and stress, not solely from the knee on his neck. But it didn't matter. They already made their verdict before the case was even heard because they were trying to push their propaganda. They used COVID-19 and they used the death of George Floyd to take BlackRock after the 15 days to slow the spread. BlackRock, they come out, take printed money and dump it right into big corporations like Amazon, Nike, and all these corporations that would bend the knee to ESG scoring so that they can push their environmental gospel on us, that we are going to save the environment from this catastrophic death that should have taken place decades ago. And they even changed the definition and language on that. They go from global warming to global cooling to climate change. Just change it as you need to fit the narrative. And all they were doing is trying to cut off the fountain to businesses that would not comply and redirect the money flow to businesses that would comply. You'd see even President Barack Obama tried this with his Operation Choke Point. They were trying to bring Operation Choke Point 2.0 back out. And what it was, they wanted to use the financial powerhouses, especially through the Federal Reserve, and they wanted to use the insurance companies to choke out businesses that would not comply to their social justice causes and their environmental salvation. They wanted to choke off the flow of money and redirect it. As a matter of fact, you can go look it up yourself. Go look up Goldman Sachs Great Reset. They tell you exactly the blueprint of what they wanted to do. Go look up what the World Economic Forum was saying. They wanted to redirect the money into corporations they could control. While they called Donald Trump a fascist, they were actually exercising what true fascism is, because Mussolini and Hitler knew that the Soviet Union, they were trying to crush corporations because they were Marxists. But now the National Socialists, not global socialists, but National Socialists said, we have a better idea. Instead of crushing the corporations, why don't we join league with them, bring them under our control, and that we can bypass constitutional rights using corporations and push it down on the general public until they have to bend the knee and they have to comply. Sounds a lot like Revelation 13 and 17, that those that would refuse to get in bed with it, you would have what you can buy and what you sell controlled. Sounds like the Canadian protesters, as all of a sudden they were cutting off their ability to get to their banking and all of that. Even PayPal was dropping them. They were locking them up financially, controlling their ability to buy or to sell. But those that would get in bed with it would be made rich on the abundance of Babylon's delicacies. And so they were redirecting the pressure through financial means. This is why President Lion Biden wanted to use OSHA, unelected bureaucrats, to force the jab in everybody's arm through businesses, corporations with more than 100 employees or more, by saying that we're going to use OSHA to fine you $70,000 up to $110,000 plus dollars per offense per employee. We're going to use the corporations to push it down because your constitutional rights defends you from a tyrannical government, not a tyrannical company, not a tyrannical institution. It defends you from a tyrannical government. And thank God for the Daily Wire that took it to the 5th District Court and won that case, and it got backed off. Some of us pay the price for it. I don't know who I'm talking about. And you see that they began to favor these corporations while they crushed middle-class businesses and churches that would speak out against it. And if you dared question any of this, if you dared said anything against it, if you even asked genuine questions, you were deemed a racist, a conspiracy theorist, a fascist, a Nazi, and everything else under the sun, because that's their way to get you to shut up so they can keep running jabs in your arm and keep pushing their propaganda down your throat. And then if you dare question the efficacy of the of the vaccines, or if there was any negative ramifications for your health, you were deemed to be crazy. And yet later on, we find that there's myocarditis reports, heart inflammation. We find that it messed with women's cycles, which could have messed with their ability to have birth, which I guess they don't care. They don't mind killing babies anyways. You find that there were thrombosis or whatever that's called, TTS. Um, there was, oh, I'm gonna butcher this one, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and there was even tinnitus and other complaints, and even reported deaths. 19,417 U.S. deaths reports after the COVID-19 vaccination through May 30th, 2025. By rule, look, providers had to report all deaths after COVID-19 vaccination, regardless of cause. So not maybe not all of them died because of a direct result of the vaccine, but yet we know that every medicine has side effects. But yet this was the one medicine that supposedly had absolutely zero side effects. And if you asked if there was any side effects, you were deemed absolutely a lunatic, a conspiracy theorist that needed to have your mouth shut. And if you talked about it online, if you were on YouTube, they demonetized you. They would take down your Facebook profile. They would try to absolutely wreck and destroy your life. This is the radical left. They're the same as the UK. And then they flip the script and say Donald Trump is the one that's trying to crack down on free speech. Now let's bring it to where we're at today, where the radical left, especially crazy Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas, are out demanding RFK to step down. Why? Because now, hey, not everybody's going to be able to get the jab. That's not even true. I was just at CVS today, right on the front. It says, they're promoting you getting your vaccine, and underneath it even tells you most insurance will cover this. They don't like RFK because he's trying to gut out their overbloated departments, gut out all the overbloating of Washington, to drain the actual swamp, and also maybe because it hurts their profits. Let's see. I mean, Bernie Sanders from Merck, he's getting 34,379 according to Open Secrets report. Johnson, $3,319. I mean, it seems like Johnson's given less, so I guess, they don't get the same treatment as Moderna and Pfizer. Pfizer, 1,000. It says 1,714. I think that number's low, but we'll take it for what it's worth from Open Secrets. Novavax, $50. It says $0 according to Open Secrets 2024 from Moderna. Not according to RFK's statements, though. Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren. Merck, $22,835, 2,172 from Pfizer, 250 from Johnson. Johnson is probably a low number. Supposedly only $78 from Moderna. Do you really believe that? I don't. But nevertheless, they're taking quite a bit of money from them. So now, radical left, talk to me about APAC. I mean, APAC. Israel's controlling America. Donald Trump is Bibi's puppet. APAC is here. They don't talk about Act Blue. They don't talk about these big vaccine companies pushing their money down upon the radical left and buying those politicians. But no, you just want me to listen to you talk about APAC because maybe Israel is tired of always being the one who's being slaughtered. And maybe now they have some money and they're trying to use their money wisely for the protection of their country and the protection of their future. And maybe actually politicians accept it because they actually believe in Israel. We take all information by sound bites sometimes, and then we propagate lies. Here on the Revealed Report, we actually want to bring fair and balanced information to you. And I say fair and balanced because the radical left, it should be completely eliminated from political positions, not physically, not harmed, from political positions. I know the right wants to actually play nice with them. We don't need to play nice with them. They're dangerous people that want to absolutely wreck our lives. Once we shake hands and make a deal with them, they're going to pull us off the cliff all the way into the hell dystopian that they want to send us into, right under their boot. We need to defeat them politically. We need to beat them in the ballot box every time there's an election. We don't ever need them to get back in the White House. We need to take them out of Congress, out of the, and some people say, well, that means the right's going to have too much power. There will always be somebody that rises up to make sure there's checks and balances. When the Whig Party fell, the Republican Party rose. There will always be another party that rises up. Don't buy into that narrative. We need to do, as Rush Limbaugh said, defeat them. Defeat them. We need them to lose. We don't need to go to sleep. We don't need to act like it's gone away. We need to beat them. We need to beat them in their own game. We don't need to play by their rules. We need to beat them. We can't bring back stability and we can't bring back a constitutional republic until we beat them. We can talk about bringing a constitutional republic back to its full form after we beat them. We have to win first. We are in an ideological, spiritual, and political war. And at the root of it, it is spiritual. So, America, the first thing we need to do is realize, thank God for President Donald Trump, but he's not the Savior. We need Jesus Christ to bless our nation. Let us return back to the fear of God. In God we trust. America, I love you. God bless you. Have a great weekend.